Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Vasan Turk, also known as the Solutions Expert, and this is the Solutions for You show. I'm really excited to bring you great content today with our special guest. If this is your first time listening to us, I started Solutions for You show to end small business failure. Statistics show that 78% of small businesses will fail in the first 5 years. What is that number one reason for failure? Lack of knowledge. So we are here today to bring the knowledge and hope that you will hear something propel your business further. It's not about me, it's about we, because we are greater than me. So my co-knowledge bringer today is the illustrious Robert Blake. Robert Blake is a creative entrepreneur helping businesses, brands, and individuals market themselves effectively with engaging visuals and effective messages. Roberto has over 10 years of experience commercially in design and marketing and has helped brands, both large and small, achieve their goals to reach their audiences. His popular YouTube channel has over 60,000 subscribers, and he has helped thousands of creatives find education and motivation to build their craft, market themselves, and start businesses. Once again, thank you for joining us, Robert. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. So, hey, everybody, this is Roberto Blake of robertoblake.com. And today I'm hoping that we can help you with anything you're struggling with in terms of the development of your brand or your communication strategy, because it's something that I think is very important. It can't be overstated. And I think that, unfortunately, it's something that a lot of businesses and first-time entrepreneurs are doing wrong that is leading them to fail in the execution of their businesses.
Absolutely. All right, so we're just going to get right into it. I know you've been out there for a while with your small business and motivating other businesses and teaching other businesses how to be successful. What motivates you to do what you do?
So a lot of different things. Ultimately, I would say that I'm putting out things into the world that I wish had been more accessible or available to me or someone like me when I got started in my career or when I was trying to start freelancing or building a business. I've been able to do a successful creative services business by myself as a one-man studio for a while now. It's been great. But the thing is, this is not my first entrepreneurial venture. In college, I tried some things and they didn't work out. But I think that not having the knowledge, not having the resources, not even having a lot of virtual mentorship that's available today from not just people like myself, but others, I think that would have made a real difference in my life and my career and my business over a decade ago. And I'm very happy, and it's very fulfilling for me to be able to do that for somebody else today and help them get their start or help them continue what they're doing.
Mentorship is absolutely paramount. You definitely need a mentor if you plan to do, I would think really anything in life, you need to have a mentor, whatever you plan to do, but you absolutely have to have a mentor in small business. You need someone to guide you along the way. What would you say were some unexpected hurdles that you encountered while you were building your business?
I would say that there are a couple of things. I think some of the initial hurdles are more internal than external, believe it or not, but I think that was in my specific case. I think that internally, a lot of people, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're even someone who's already successful in business, that there's an internal voice in your head that you have to overcome in terms of your fears, your anxiety about things that you're going to execute on that might be holding you back. And there's also the external part of that is there are a lot of narratives out there that are just false. There are a lot of misinformation out there in the world. There are a lot of mantras and tried and somewhat quote unquote true sayings that don't still apply the way that they might have a decade ago or 20 years ago. But people like to rehash these things over and over and perpetuate them. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people get held back by these established mantras of people that have come before them or that they're looking to that are already successful, not realizing that it's about context. The context of what something might have been and was true even 5 years ago in a world that moves as quickly as we're seeing today with new changes in technology, disruption of industries. You can't sit there and you can't apply by those old rules. What got someone successful 20 years ago, there's a great book that's called What Got You There Won't Get You Here. And that's something that people should take to heart even now, that what made their parents successful, what made their grandparents successful, what made one of their older contemporaries successful, those rules do not apply today, not for the most part. Primary example, a lot of people romantically are clinging to the idea of their resume or to the idea of, for example, the pedigree of their education being the thing that will create the most value for them and upside in their career or give them leverage in beginning their business. And that's simply not the case anymore. I would argue that your brand and your network is infinitely more important at this point than that pedigree, because no one's interested in your pedigree comparatively today when you have a body of work that speaks for itself. You have recommendations from paying customers or paying clients. You have the opportunity to have video testimonials today. You have videos where people can vouch for you. You have all these other things that are true proof. And a lot of people disregard the value of social media and social proof today, but that's because it didn't exist in their time. But if they look at it purely from a value proposition standpoint, proving your worth is about removing anxiety for the other person a lot of times. And we have so many opportunities to do that with face-to-face real human connections and testimonials and social proof, not unlike what we're doing here today. You and I are able to have a conversation through this video chat face-to-face, but also have it on the record for other people to benefit from. That capability didn't really exist in a very easy or accessible way 5 years ago, let alone 10. So there are a lot of people that are resistant to the benefits of that today because they just don't have any experience with it.
Absolutely. That is great. I don't think anybody can ever put that, the way you said it, so good. That's why I put up in there, brand and network is vital. And that's, like you just said in the beginning, having a mentor is vital, but that's vital in everything you're doing, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're in business or you're building a small business or wanting to size up. And we kind of had this conversation before. You touched on in the beginning, what worked 10 years ago may not work today. And that is so true because technology has changed so quickly over the last 10 years, which we haven't seen this type of shift even in the 10 years previous to that. So 20 years ago, we didn't have things that we have nowadays. And the dynamic shift in the Paramount, just like, Blab is a new platform. Well, Periscope is also a new platform. Meerkat is a new platform. So the live streaming platform is pushing itself through. And I even heard that Facebook now is making live available to everybody very soon. So the dynamic is changing so much in business that if you want to continue to succeed, you must continue to be educated, or have someone like a mentor, a consultant, or a coach that is aware of these changes, and you have to make the changes as well. So what we find—
And this is not just for new entrepreneurs either. This is not just for new entrepreneurs or for young people either. Right. There are a lot of people that I talk to. I'm actually helping educate some people who are already established that are boomers, because they have a real fear, and it's a rational fear, that they might be pushed out by an upstart competitor or their youngest or loudest competitor. And it's very difficult for them because they don't know where to start or what to do. And they're very afraid that if they don't do something, that they'll end up like Blockbuster or like Kodak.
Right. Or I like to use the largest one, which is a lot of people don't realize, is Lehman Brothers. We hear about Blockbuster and their stores closing, Barnes and Noble, so Amazon took over that. Well, Lehman Brothers was a 100-year-old trillion-dollar company that went out of business because they didn't stay ahead of the technology. And they had some other stuff that went on too, but the major thing was they didn't recreate themselves. So as you began your business and you were building your business, what are some of the unexpected benefits that you saw as you were building your business?
I saw, because I built it from the perspective of a philosophy first, rather than I already knew what my revenue model was. I hate business plans because I don't feel that they're practical anymore. I feel that when people say, well, I've got to draw up a formal business plan, I'm like, you're not pitching yourself to a bank or an investment firm anymore, unless you are, which is very different if that's the game that you're playing. But if you're going into a service-based industry, or you're going to be a vendor, or you're going to be a freelancer, or whatever you're going to do, for the most part, for 80% of you in small business today, the thing is, you don't need a business plan. You need a marketing plan, a communication strategy, and you need a revenue model. You need to know how you're making money, how often you're making money, where that is going to come from, how much money you want to make, and what you're going to provide that has that value. And then you need a way to communicate that value to be able to negotiate that price. And that's where your marketing communication strategy is. And that's it. That is it. What am I going to do that creates value for other people? Because when I ask people about why do they think businesses exist, what do you think the answer is 80% of the time, Turk?
To make money is, I already know that's what most people think.
Right.
But
And
but
guess what? Wrong.
yeah, right. We have the same agreement on that, what it actually is.
Wrong. Because your customer, your client, doesn't give a crap about making you money. Doesn't give a
Right,
crap about. That's why you're gonna be out of business if you think
right,
that. Because I'm in business to make money. No, making money is a result. You're in business as long as you can make money, but you're going to make money if you're delivering value for your client or customer or something that they find desirable. If you're failing to deliver that, your desire to make money is irrelevant to them. You wanting to make money has nothing to do with you giving me what I want or what I need from your company or your business. And the minute you can't deliver on that, you're not getting my money. So you wanting to make money, your desire to make money is not why your business exists, because it won't, regardless of having that desire. Blockbuster and Kodak and Lehman Brothers all still wanted to make money. Borders still wanted to make money. Believe me when I tell you they wanted that. They weren't able
right,
to create the experience and the value that customers wanted. And so their desire to make money was irrelevant because they couldn't anymore.
right. So you get a little ahead. I say at the end of my show every time, the only reason why your business exists is to solve a problem. That's sort of like the title for this show. So I
Makes
get that
perfect
a
sense.
lot. I get that a lot. Why are you in business? Oh, because I want to make money. Well, that's not really, you can't really be truly successful if the only reason why you're in business is to make money. It must be some problem that you're solving, or some desire, some deep passion that you have to solve this particular problem in the community or a specific demographic or whatever. You have to pinpoint your business and almost deadline focus it on that particular problem to know that person, to know
Exactly.
him. Right.
Exactly. The most desirable brands in the world that we're all aware of, if we think of them, are companies like Apple, Nike, Google. These are companies that we can tell you what the value they create is, and we can tell you what their brand story is.
Right.
This is the problem that I see facing many small businesses and even existing businesses today, is they don't know what their brand story is, and they can't tell you what the value that they provide is. They can tell you all these things like their business model. They can tell you about the money that they want to make, the margins they want to have, who their ideal customer is, but they can't tell you their origin story. They can't tell you who they create value for and how they create that value. And, but I can tell you that about these major brands. I can tell you that about, Apple. We all know the creation story of Apple. We know that the value that they bring to the table, whether you agree with it or not, is premium products with beautiful design, great user experiences, and a focus on aesthetic. So we know that about Apple. We know that, okay, elegant, minimalist, expensive. We know those things are associated with their brand, right? We know that Nike we know their motto is just do it. We know a lot of things about Nike. We know that they have premium products as well, and they're considered a premium. We know that they're about, the competition and about winning. We know those things about them. We know Google's open philosophy, essentially, and we know that they make all this money while delivering mostly free products to us, which is insane. And we know those things. But if you don't know what the value is and what the story behind your brand is, you're going to struggle in business.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, to the entrepreneurs out there, or the people I see, some people starting a business or maybe a year or 2 years into their business, what are the two key things you wish you knew before you started your entrepreneur journey?
I wish I knew how valuable it was to have a strong network early on, because initially I did a lot of stuff very lone wolf style because I only wanted to depend on myself. And I also very much wanted the narrative of knowing how far I could go on my own and being able to mark off what that ceiling was, what those accomplishments were. And that's fine up to a certain point, but you lose some speed in doing that. You get some gains in speed depending on your abilities. I'm very fortunate in the fact that my skill sets and what I could execute on saved me probably tens of thousands of dollars in the development of my business and my brands. And I would say that my technical expertise saved me a lot of heartache and headache there as well. Most people don't have that. So for them, networking would be essential in terms of having people who can deliver solutions for those things. And they might need to leverage an individual like myself. they might need to leverage someone like you and have that relationship. But if they don't, it's going to be very difficult for them to gain real traction early on. In my case, I wish I had more people who could compensate for my weaknesses so that I would have spent less time addressing them and building on them, and I could have focused on my strengths and the things that create the most upside for me. So that's something I wish I'd done very early on. The most important thing I would say for me, networking would have been better sooner rather than later. I also would urge positioning and pricing yourself out of certain markets if you know that there's a filter for a type of customer that you would want. I didn't price myself high enough and price myself out of certain markets to deal with less frustrating clients and do the work that I really wanted to do earlier. And I think that's important. I think that you should not, time is so precious and so valuable that you should not squander it on things that you're really not interested in or things that don't create enough upside for you. You could make just as much, if not more money doing something that is a great relationship that will be scalable, someone who will come back, rather than one-off things that frustrate you and it's not a great relationship for anybody. So I would say that those two things, I would say pricing myself appropriately out of a lower tier market and at a premium into the right type of clients for me. And I would say networking to buy back some of my time and compensate for my weaknesses so I could focus on my strengths.
Right. Wow, that is great. That's fantastic. I have a client that it's interesting you said that, and we have been negotiating how to set their prices because they like to set they've onto this mindset of setting their prices too low based on the value that they present to the marketplace. So I said, you present a large value to the marketplace, and after working with this client for, I guess it's been a month and a half now, they finally gotten to the point like, look, I don't want to deal with these particular clients or customers that are actually taking advantage of me or taking advantage of my services or the value that I bring. So I said, well, you won't have that problem once you raise your price. And finally, I guess it took that long to realize, oh yeah, I am valuable. I am what I do does produce some worth, So I don't want anybody to ever be cheating anybody or not present that value. But when you present a value, then that price that you're asking for or you're negotiating for is well worth them paying. Then it's a mutual agreement. It's a win-win situation. But
if you deliver, you're never really ripping anyone off. And the thing
right.
is, the value and the price is the price, and like the market will decide. And again, you need to price yourself out of a market that you don't think is valuing you appropriately.
Right.
People make the argument, and I deal with some people like this, not all the time. I used to be all the time, but now that people get it, people are like, well, why would I pay you $1,000 to do X when I can find somebody to do it for $50? It's like, well, you could go into a high-end meeting with Mark Cuban in a $50 suit off the rack, and you can see, and maybe you have the personality to pull that off. That's fine. Or you could go in and you could look like what you're asking for in terms of an investment. If you're asking
Absolutely.
people to invest, then your brand has to reflect the quality of that investment. So, if you want to ask for a premium, you need to look like you're worth a premium. So then don't haggle with me on the price of what's going to represent you to go out into the world to ask people for money. If you're going to ask someone for $2,000, then $500, $600, $1,000 is not a lot to pay for a logo and for your branding that's supposed to represent that you are good enough to ask for that. You
Yes.
should be looking like
Yes.
the people. If your product or your service is going to be on the shelf next to other people who are doing that, take a look at what they've got going on. And I promise you, they're not going bargain basement shopping. If it was going to be your face, the face that you show to the world, you wouldn't go bargain basement shopping for the cheapest plastic surgeon you could find. You'd buy the best thing you could afford, and you'd spend every penny you have to make sure that you were looking right and that you were presented well and attractively to the world. We know that. So, that's how I put things in very real world terms for people to avoid negotiating on price. Also, I respect myself by not budging on my prices. If I give a price, I justify it. I give the reasoning behind it, and that's what it is. And more importantly, I make people understand that, well, that's what other people are paying me, meaning that this is what the market demand for me is. And if I don't get that from you, I will get that from somewhere else because I'm not going to invest my time for anything less than what I'm asking for. I'm not going to negotiate. Now, if someone were to tell me, well, Roberto, I only have a budget of X. That's different because then it's predicated on what impression did they create that makes me want to work with them.
Right.
That's part of the philosophy of Create Awesome. It's like, I want to create awesome things and share them with the world. I want to help other people do that. I also only want to work with awesome people. So I have qualifiers for that. And I even tell people up front when I'm meeting with clients that if we decide to work together, I'm making it very clear that I can walk away from their project and from money at any point in time, which makes them respect the relationship more because I haven't even agreed to yes. And my clients come to me. I don't cold call. That's the other value of building a personal brand and a communication strategy is price, authenticity, and marketing all can be a funnel, but they can also be a filter. They are also a filter for the type of relationship you want. I'll give you a real world example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Men and women, in the terms of their clothing and their appearance, when they go out into social gatherings, they're using their appearance as a funnel to attract people to them, but they're also using it as a filter to screen people out because we all know that we've looked at that guy or gal and said, you know what, that person's out of my league. I'll go try something easier. And that's real talk.
Right.
Your business is the same. You can look. I've had people tell me, you know what, I almost didn't pick up the phone and call you because I thought that you were out of my budget.
Right. Which is actually a good place to be. Is you brought to my remembrance when you said something about your face. I worked with a client, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, and they were in a creative business, sort of like what you do. They do a lot of graphic design, web design. And one of the things I remember telling them, because it seems like we do this is an issue with a lot of entrepreneurs as far as what prices they need to set, what value that they bring to the table, as opposed to and pricing it correctly. And I use the analogy of a plastic surgeon. So you can go to, I mean, there's plenty of plastic surgeons in the United States. I mean, but some of the world-renowned ones are in Hollywood or New York. I mean, so these people are known for the work that they do, for your face. So you can have your customers say, okay, well, you can go to, there's plenty of plastic surgeons that you can go to, but there's only certain ones that are actually going to give you a really good product in the end. And you're dealing with your face, you're dealing with your body, you're dealing with your presentation. So do you really want to go and maybe go a little bit cheaper, and in the end, you may lose out? Or do you want to go somewhere where you can get it done correctly and pay a little bit more in price or a little bit more in premium price? But that premium means less risk to you because you know that you're getting a good value product or a good value service, and you're not going to get, later on, like one of those pictures on the internet that somebody has some bad plastic surgery or some terrible thing that happened to them, So I used that analogy before, which is similar exactly to what you said, that you want to definitely get that little bit more in price, kind of takes out the risk associated with dealing with someone where they can get a $50 logo. There's a lot of risk involved with that. Are you getting the right files with that? Is that going to be a good comparable solution to when you go to the meeting with Mark Cuban? Is that going to be comparable solution? But if you got someone that knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, didn't just get out of school and just doing this as a trade just to see if it works, then you get that value presented there. All right.
And I also get clients by giving that education exactly that. I did a video on pricing for logo design, and I addressed it in the first 15 seconds. I said that this is for you graphic designers to know how to price yourself, but this is for clients too, for you guys to understand the value of a logo and why it may not be as cheap as you're imagining, or why you think you're paying hundreds of dollars for what you think is simple type or a shape or something that you are having a struggle with in your mind justifying paying hundreds or thousands of dollars worth. Here's why. And I broke it down. And that video, within maybe a 2-month period, converted to $5,000 in new client business, specifically for individual logo projects. Many of those clients, and that was like maybe only 4 clients, I think 2 or 3 of them actually ended up being repeat customers. So they're just putting out information like that as part of my brand strategy, my communication strategy, and also investing in other people to make them aware of things, whether they choose me or not, because there was no pitch in that video to say, hey, hire me. It was just, look, you need to know this. If you're a competitor of mine, you need to know this. If you are someone who's going to go to me or someone else, guess what? You still need to know this. And I'm so comfortable and confident to put that out there. Most people would say, I would never enable my competition. This was something I got criticism for when I started my YouTube channel was, why are you teaching other people creative services when you're in that business? That won't work. Or why do you think why would you do that? You should drown your competition in a bathtub, not give them a helping hand. This is stuff that actual people said to me. And lo and behold, it works. I can actually qualify the return on investment of it in multiple tiers. There's multiple ways I've gotten return on investment and return on relationship value on top of it. And I find that it comes down to something just like what we talked about what to pay to do something and the certainty that you talked about. That is the difference between an investment mentality of abundance and a scarcity mentality that's about fear and pinching pennies and being tight-fisted.
Absolutely. Now, what is the one project you're working on right now that you will want to promote or get people engaged?
Oh God, one.
Man, you got all the time you need. Whatever projects you want.
Well, there's a couple of things. I'm working on a series of step-by-step videos to actually help more people with different things on my YouTube channel. So you can definitely check that out at youtube.com/Roberto Blake 2. And that's where you can consume all of my content. I have over 600 plus videos there. I'm doing more with my blog, robertoblake.com/blog. And you can sign up for my newsletter there. The Create Awesome Community newsletter is not just an email list, and it's not me sending out spammy emails. It's me, one, going deeper into things I've executed on that I may not have covered in other content and giving some of the outright things that I've done to be successful, as well as free resources that I'm using every week to grow and to build my business, the tools that I use, everything from my hardware setup to software and services that I take advantage of all the time, techniques and tactics that have helped grow 10x investments on things that I've done. So that's a lot of the value that I provide up front there. I'm also doing more with email courses through the newsletter and asking people what they want. What I do very differently in my content and my brand is I ask my audience a lot of the times what they want, what they need, what they're struggling with. And also, if people reach out to me through the newsletter, I usually actually write them a detailed email response. So that's something that people have the opportunity to take advantage of. I'm trying to do more public speaking as well because I can reach, an audience in a way where they're engaged for the entire period of time, and I can go long form there, and I can give a lot of real value. I can go deep, and I also have a Q&A opportunity at the end. So I'm trying to do more speaking engagements. I'm actually going to be speaking next year at How Design Live on the Creative Entrepreneur track about social media and social selling, because I think people don't realize that social media is not just a broadcast platform. It's a networking platform that you can use whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're someone at a 9-to-5 job that wants to grow in their career, whether it's a side hustle or whether it's get a promotion. There is a networking value to social media. Also, if you have a service or a product, there's a huge opportunity with social selling if you do it the right way and you respect the listener and you respect the relationship.
That's wonderful. All right, now is the time of the show. We're open up for questions. Do we have any questions in the audience?
Someone asked if I've thought about teaching some of this as a class on Udemy. The answer is yes. There are courses I plan to release next year. One of the big ones will be a premium course. It will be one of the most expensive courses on Udemy. Is going to be like a $300 course on how to grow a successful YouTube channel. We brought it before that I've grown over 60,000. I think it's 65,000 right now on the YouTube channel. That's in about 2.5 years that I've done that, which is not normal. And I have a subscriber growth rate of 5,000 new subscribers a month. But then outside of AdSense revenue, meaning the YouTube ad revenue, outside of that, I'm making thousands of dollars a month off of YouTube. It's not my full-time income. It's just a part of my revenue pipeline, and it's probably my biggest marketing platform more than anything. But I've been able to do quite well there with a lot of different revenue strategies outside of the advertising model of YouTube. So if someone's looking to do that or looking to grow their business, because as you know, I've gotten referral business. I've about doubled my business in terms of referrals using YouTube to build that brand, and then also spun that off in speaking engagements and so on and so forth. There is a lot that I'm putting into this course. There are a ton of lectures, and unlike many of the courses, not to like put them down or anything, in Udemy, I'm someone who not only did this in a short period of time, but did it in one of the hardest, most saturated, competitive things you can do it in. I didn't go entertainment. I didn't go comedy. I went education and knowledge base, which, as you know, people have short attention spans. We're talking about a lot of medium and long form content here. We're talking 1 hour webinars. We're talking about a lot of stuff that's very business centric. So if I can do it there, someone who's doing something infinitely more scalable can also be successful if they use these strategies and tactics. So I'm doing things like that and a personal branding course in Udemy, but all of that will be for 2016.
That sounds like a fantastic course. I might be interested in that myself.
I definitely, obviously recommend it. And for you, Turk, I will give you some kind of like reviewer's discount.
If we have any questions with the, we have 8 people here at the moment, well, 6 of us, including us 2. You guys can hop into a seat and ask your question. You got the guy here, the brand specialist. He's one of the #1 guys on YouTube.
For what I do.
Right, for what you do, yeah.
I'm not like a lot of people. The interesting thing is a lot of people with the YouTube stuff, they get very a lot of people have a naive view of YouTube. I'll say that. A lot of people have a naive view of YouTube, and they think that it's about a 1 million subscriber count or getting 1 million views of video or something going viral. And that's not really the point for most people, particularly if you're trying to build a personal brand or a business. You can do much less than that and get a lot more out of it. Gary Vaynerchuk is a primary example of this. It didn't take 100,000 or 50,000 subscribers in Wine Library TV for him to then become the wine guy and spin that into a personal brand that got him speaking engagements, spun off into the book Crush It, which then started the HarperCollins book deal for him, and then the building of his media agency only a few years later. Right. You can do this with a very small brand audience. Initially, Tim Schmoyer, another big YouTube guy as far as the marketing side of YouTube, his family vlog still doesn't have, I think, even 50,000 subscribers, but he made his primary income and living off of that through a 10-tier revenue model that included AdSense, sponsorship, licensing of video content, and a product that he built. And then he spun off a second YouTube channel, which has since got 100,000 subscribers, called Video Creators, where he's educating people about YouTube, not unlike myself, but we cover a lot of different things. We've had many conversations about this, and a lot of people have this naive view that you need either a large audience, or you need perfect equipment, or you need to do what's popular in order to be successful in YouTube there. And a lot of brands also don't understand the space, but thankfully many of them are leveraging influencers who do, and are either getting consulting from them like my clients are, or they're using them for sponsorship like some brands that I've worked with to help promote their products, because they're realizing that they don't know this space well enough to operate successfully in it.
That's great. We have a question from Mike at Sprint. He says, I want to do a Blab guitar lesson, and I need to have a mic and my guitar sound come through my computer. Any suggestions?
So in your case, Mike, you might need to, that's ironic. You might need to look into some microphone solutions, possibly a mixer. And I would say that that's going to help you, not unlike it would, as you're familiar with conventional music and recording in a studio space. It's very similar to that. So even when you're broadcasting on Blab, you kind of have to take that approach as well. So I would say you look into that. People have done this for YouTube and other platforms as well. Whatever worked for that will work in this scenario for you for Blab for live streaming. And my recommendation there is to find a YouTube musician and to pick their brain and to get that information from them, because they will have specifics on exactly what to buy and why to buy it. And you'll be able to get the help you need there.
Any more questions?
Well, I have a question for you, Turk, that's going to probably lead to another question. It's like,
Okay.
what do you feel that you're struggling with right now in the development or the execution of your brand? And maybe I can answer some of those questions. If you have like three things that you think that you find challenging, either in the social media side or in communication or in the development of your brand, what do those problems look like? And maybe I can give you and the audience some advice on that.
That's pretty simple because I've been going through that before. I would probably say my number one thing is time. I just actually hired a community manager to do my social media postings because I just didn't have the time to actually. I have quotes and I have things that I want to put up there. I actually started using Buffer a couple of months ago, but even still, me having the time to actually use Buffer was a big issue. The second thing, because as you know, I kind of changed my brand in the way that I'm doing things. I'm no longer going after Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, and I'm looking more to do more things with small and medium business. So that can be a little bit of a challenge, going from that mindset that I don't need to speak to a large CEO and because it's a totally different demographic, totally different mindset, totally different thing that you're doing when you're going from big business to small business. So I guess that would be my second thing as far as my branding challenge. I don't know if I have a third branding challenge. Maybe I will once you answer those two.
So
Maybe I'll come up with something else.
Let's speak to the first two. Let's speak to the first two, and then maybe you'll come up with a third in the meantime. So for the first thing, time. Totally get it. I run into this all the time. I run into people who do as well all the time. Again, that's interesting. There's that word again. So I would say, one, look into systems and things that make sense to automate, and automate the things that make sense, and be human and work in real time where that makes sense as well. I don't automate direct messaging, for example, because I feel the whole point of direct messaging is it's a private one-on-one communication with another human being. I would never let a robot do that for me. So I don't like when people, I follow them or I do something in Twitter and I get an automated direct message. That really bothers me. So I don't do it, even though a lot of people use that to promote the driver to their newsletter or their free ebook. I refuse to do that. I don't care what people think is being left on the table by not doing that. If I'm going to reach out to you directly, I'm going to do it as a human being. And a lot of times I do it in an actual personalized video message because Twitter limits that to 30 seconds. I can do it in 10 or 15. That's not enough of my time for me to have anxiety about. 30 seconds, please. So I can take 30 seconds to build and invest in a relationship. So I will.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, what I will do is, and some people give me flack about this when I say market like a human, I push content on a 24-hour schedule through Buffer to Twitter. And the reasoning behind that is it's a trigger for the engagement that I want. And because almost every single time people are clicking on it, I know that they want the value of the content. So when people then come back at me and they like challenge me on it or say that they feel that that might be spammy, I then video message them directly and tell them, like publicly actually, and tell them why it's not, and that you're annoyed that you saw that in your feed twice in one day. The person on the other side of the world in Australia who's just getting up right now that needed that problem solved for them is very happy that I did that. So I just need you to understand that me marketing like a human means that I'm interpreting and thinking about not just one person, but everybody. And so that means that I might annoy one person for the sake of creating value for 1,000 people. And guess what? I'm always going to do that. You're welcome to unfollow if it's something that makes you uncomfortable. And right. And I tell them that respectfully. It's that I'm going to create the value for the most people I can, and that's just what I'm going to do. And everyone's not going to be a fan of it. And if you think that I tweet a lot, I favorite and follow brands and certain people and social media experts. And I will tell you that there's a reason why I'm not in the top % of people in Twitter overall. There's a reason. It's the fact that I do not put out nearly as much in Twitter as some people. I do not put out the 400 tweets a day that the top 1% of people in Twitter are doing.
Right.
So I would say that for time, prioritize the things that are important, automate things that don't require a human touch that anyone could do, outsource things that don't require any anxiety from you of I need it to look this way, I need it to sound this way, I need it to be this way. Anything that you don't have anxiety about, that you don't have to do, that takes up a considerable amount of time, consider outsourcing it if you can't automate it. Automate all the things that you do personally want to do, but then take up time. Do that. And then focus on the things that are the expectation of a human relationship or require what you feel is your attention. Then prioritize those things and be human there. So that's how I would address time. The second problem you brought up was you've shifted your demographic and your market. I would say that there's a couple of things here. When you're dealing with a broader market and you're dealing with small business, you need to listen a lot more and use social listening hacks and hashtags to listen to see what problems people have and how they're communicating. Coming down from Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies to startup businesses and people who may, if they're lucky, be Inc. 500 companies, I would say that you have to use very simple but precise language with them. You don't do a lot in terms of jargon, but you're forced to in the Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 space sometimes, because if you don't use certain buzzwords or things that catch their attention, they're distracted and they're on to the next thing because so much competes for their attention. You have to qualify with them sometimes, and that means doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Getting out of that mindset and shifting back to simplicity, a focus on execution, a focus on ROI, knowing that you're having to get people to an investment mentality. Think about your communication strategy in those terms and think about it from the perspective of relationship building more. Fortune 100 and 500 companies, they're not looking for necessarily a relationship with a person so much as a relationship with an entity. But small businesses are much more personal because this is somebody's baby to them. This is somebody's, dream. And to entrust any part of that to somebody requires them to like and trust and respect that person. And so the relationship value there is very different. It's something that I've taken advantage of at scale by the fact that even if they're not going to watch all of them, there are 600 plus opportunities through archived YouTube videos for someone to realize that I'm the right fit for them. They have that opportunity to see my personality, to see what my honest opinion and answers are. They have a lot of that that's live and unedited. They have the concise, polished versions. They have the ability to say, well, that person's knowledgeable about this thing. They have 50 videos on this one thing and 600 more besides. So they're knowledgeable. Okay, that person's very articulate. Okay, I've seen this live. So I've seen that this person can speak fluidly and effectively and can communicate. And so they have all these ways to qualify that I'm the right fit for them, or I have the right understanding, or I have the right execution. So consider that with small business, if you had social proof that was applying to the 100 and the Fortune 500 people, that might have come in the form of case studies and all this very technical, they're very data driven. Small business is very organic. It's very human. It's very personal. So then the conversation and the way that you communicate to them has to be very different, and it has to appeal to them on that human level. And things like Blab are a good thing for that. Skype conferencing, people are very happy to do that more often than not. So it's things like that, I would say.
Here's something I just thought about. I usually concentrate a lot on, and I tell a lot of my clients, concentrate on RGA, what I call revenue generating activities. So I do spend a lot of time, closing deals, talking about contracts or cold calling, lead generation, those type of things. But how much time would you say that you spend on RGA, revenue generating activity, as opposed to creating content or being on social media? Because that is important. That is very important. Networking, going to networking events, things of that sort. If there was a percentage per month or percentage per week, or however you want to break it out, how would you think you would divide the two?
When I'm not sleeping or spending time with my family, I would argue that's 100%. And here's my reasoning behind that. It's because instead of focusing on things that I think will generate revenue, I do things that matter to me and find a way to make revenue from them. And so I would rather, I can turn almost anything, including working for free, into a revenue generating opportunity, even if that's long tail. Because a lot of people criticized me and didn't think that doing YouTube videos was going to make sense or was going to do anything for me except possibly get me some attention. And what it did was YouTube videos are directly responsible for me doing over 10K a year in writing deals in terms of publications in my industry that matter that I write for. I'm now a paid writer, and I don't have to take a large portion of my time out of my month to do the writing that adds up to 10K plus a year. It's actually closer to 15 if I don't use conservative estimates, and if I go with, because part of it's predicated by the volume of content that I want to write. So as long as I write as much as I want to X amount, I get that opportunity, and I can make anywhere from 10K to 15K off of that with the deals I currently have. And that's just that writing opportunity. So that's, if the idea is, well, how do you build quote unquote the beginnings of a six-figure business? Well, there's a tenth of it is that through marketing content and showing them an effective communicator, and the fact that I can leverage video for sticky blog posts and articles to increase SEO through watch time, and I'm smart enough to understand that conversation, well, that created that opportunity. It spun off the speaking engagements, which then is another opportunity to scale and create another potential revenue stream that can be another block of beginning to build out the 10K pipeline. I'm sorry, not 10K pipeline, the 100K pipeline if it's the beginning of trying to get to a six-figure business. And I'm not claiming that because I don't know right now. I haven't done like any auditing yet for the end of the year. I don't know how much money I made, but my point is, I know it for specific things, but my point is, if you want to build something, you want to talk about revenue generating activities, it's why is this activity not generating revenue would be more of my anxiety, and question is, then, I'm always thinking of this thing leads to something else. I'm very big picture. This YouTube video that I did will make ad revenue long tail. I don't know how much, but it also could bring me a client. That could make me a certain amount of revenue as well. And it can bring me more than one. I talked about one video. It brought me whatever ad revenue it brought me, but it also brought me $5,000 of referral business in 2 months that then added to relationships that I was able to maintain to make more money than that. So one piece of content, the hour out of my week that took to shoot and edit and upload and push that content, 1 hour translated short tail of 60 days to $5,000. Who makes $5,000 an hour? I don't know anyone personally who makes $5,000 an hour. And it's not that I make $5,000 an hour, it's that I can. If I use that hour effectively for something that can create recurring value in terms of revenue, it gives the opportunity to continue to build relationships. I have 600 plus videos that are an opportunity to close a client or bring me a new relationship or bring me a speaking engagement or bring me a writing deal. 24/7 available through the second largest search engine in the world via YouTube, that also increases my rankings in the first largest search engine in the world. So for me, when people and companies, and I know companies struggle with this, some of them have been my clients, some of them I used to work for as an employee, they struggle with social media and they struggle with content creation and content marketing because they're not looking at it as an investment in a relationship. They're not looking at it as a funnel for business. And even when they are, they're getting it wrong because they're focusing more on what they can get out of it or milk out of it than the value that it creates in and of itself, and how that leads to something eventually, or how it creates proof to qualify them. Because my videos and my content and all those things are not just the ability to get clients and get leads, but to qualify leads. Because my authenticity and my personality is the filter for the type of client that I would want. The quality of my work is then the filter for the value proposition of the type of client that I want in terms of price. And so all of those things matter. So it's not any one thing. It's that even the investment in the equipment that I buy, that I then do a review of, gives me an opportunity to build a relationship with a sponsor later down the road. I did this with Logitech. Logitech, as a result of them seeing that I reviewed and did a really good review of the C920 webcam that I'm using right here to do Blab, and I talk about it's one of the best webcams for live streaming and all the platforms you can use it in to do this. The fact that you can use it for client consulting, and the fact that I recommend it with my Amazon affiliate links. I've made a ton of money ROI back off of this camera. I've more than 20x'd off of it in affiliate sales alone, but I then was able to build a relationship with Logitech, and they sent me maybe up to almost $1,000 in products to review and to give them feedback on as a result. That's investment I didn't have to make in my hardware infrastructure for my business, but then also gave me content that lets me show them a technology expert and I can speak intelligent about these things, lets me refer them to my clients, which also brings me another revenue pipeline out of that client relationship. It's all the stack. So I would say, if you haven't figured out how to turn something into a revenue generating activity, it should at a bare minimum be a relationship building activity, RBA. And those two things are never a waste of time. And I would say that for me, 100% of what I'm doing is that, because I just got creative about how to turn it into it.
Right. Exactly. That was a great answer. I know we had talked about it before, but I think that a lot of large companies or a lot of people are under the mindset and they try to figure out what the ROI is in something. But I always try to tell them that you need to really look at the ROR. What is the return of relationship? Because this may not necessarily get you, this may not necessarily get you a dollar amount or a customer for this amount of money, but this relationship could open the doors to a lot of other opportunities that you may have. But you're going for the relationship regardless. You're not trying to get something back out of it. You just want to create a relationship with something because it's the right thing to do. But you're not always trying to get something out of everyone. It's just the right thing to do. And that karma just to have across your business is just, it's just powerful. So if you go for the relationship, you'll never be wrong.
Right. Exactly. I built a lot of relationships through Twitter chats and through Twitter. I know that one of my writing relationships was a result of tweeting some of my content at a publisher, and that led to me writing for them and becoming a regular contributor. I then ended up doing some paid webinars through them, and so and now through their parent company, I'm now speaking at one of their events. So I ended up going deep, and I was also on a podcast that they do. I went like 5 deep, 6 deep on that relationship, and it started with some tweets of just sharing content that I had. So what's the value of Twitter? Well, it's the value of all the speaking relationship stuff that goes from that. I actually know that I actually got introduced through that relationship into another speaking engagement that I recently did in Charleston for October. And that's going to lead to me actually doing that event again next year, and also 3 more events that are related to the folks who run that conference. So that's kind of like a big deal in terms of return on relationship. Of not only did that relationship that I go like 6 levels deep on that as far as becoming involved with that company, but then it led to another relationship that I got to go to a whole different tier on as well.
All right. Now we do have a question from Indie Artist. He says, Roberto, when you first started making videos, did you share them all over the internet, or was it a YouTube search that grew your channel, or did you pay for advertising?
I really never paid for advertising for anything for a lot of reasons. Also, I like the narrative of being able to say that I built my stuff organically. Recently, I did an experiment with some Facebook dark posts just to see if it would grow my mailing list at all, and to speak to my audience about how much money it actually takes. And I found that if you're trying to do it on a budget, if you're trying to use 30, I did one for 30, and then I did an experiment with 20, I did an experiment with 10. I did a few experiments with Facebook dark post, and I didn't get a lot out of them. I got a lot of reach, but it didn't really convert in a meaningful way. It was a fraction of a percent. And so Gary Vaynerchuk and Kimra Luna and people like that are right about Facebook dark post working, but you have to spend hundreds of dollars to get any traction on it. And it only makes sense if you've got a product or a course or something that selling 1 or 2 of those makes your return on investment back. So if you have a physical product or an information product that you're doing that for, it makes sense. But don't expect to grow your Facebook page or your email list off of doing that and spending that money. Because I don't feel that unless you spend hundreds of dollars, it'll work. And if you don't have a way to get that return on investment back very quickly, in my opinion, 30, 60, 90 days off of, sales revenue, or to 10X that, I just don't feel it's worthwhile personally. So I didn't do advertising at all. I just went with what I knew and I was comfortable with. I was a blogger first, and I mastered Google SEO. Translating that knowledge to YouTube wasn't very difficult, but I also focused on content that I knew somebody like me would value, and I focused on how to get better, not how to get more out of it. I was always focused on the improvement of my craftsmanship over the growing of the audience. As far as a lot of people are like, oh, I have a goal. If I want to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I want to get to 100,000 subscribers in this amount of time. Mine has always been about how do I up my production value game? How do I get the audio quality better? How do I get the video quality better? How do I get the color grading more accurate? How do I keep this stuff more informative or entertaining? How do I experiment with long form and short form content, micro content. I'm always looking for the execution, because I know if I get the execution right, I won't have to worry about anything else. So I don't worry about anything else.
Right.
Just always go to execution. I also shared my YouTube videos through my blog, which gave me another opportunity to convert in Google search, which I know would lead people to my portfolio, which would convert them to design clients. So that was something that I gained very early in YouTube. A lot of people develop a website and blog realizing that they need to be off platform after the fact. I was always off platform on my own hub first, and then aggregating the content there. Now I'm very native to every platform, but I do have a strategy, one, through using more of my content, embedding it on my blog, but I have an intern that's going to help me put my content on a new website that I've gotten specifically to house and archive and organize my video content. So it's easier to find all of my videos on one topic than it would be just by going to my YouTube channel. I want to make it easier to consume my information. So I've set up a new website that's going to be launching next year that's going to make that easier. And it's going to have all of my 600 plus videos from YouTube, plus embeds of my catch.me archives from my Periscope and Meerkat streams, plus the embeds of my blab.im sessions for the two shows that I do. The one I do Monday, Create Awesome Live, YouTube Biz Chat on Friday, and then any of my random blabs. It's going to consolidate this content for video on its own website, on its own platform, so that it's organized and it's just easier to consume, easier to find, and it also gives me another opportunity to rank in search. So all of those things.
Great, it's fantastic. We have any more questions from the audience? Any more questions? Let's see anything else over here. I guess you gave out so much good information. Everybody knows everything now.
Well, I do try. But if you don't, I put a link in the comment section for my YouTube channel where they can find my different playlist. I do different content and topics out of the 7 days a week. I took a few days off recently just because I was under the weather, but I'm uploading the content that would have went out for those days, sporadically, just as a catch-up kind of thing. Plus, I also do that. Sometimes I double up or triple up on the content regardless, just as I have more of it or I'm getting faster on the editing. So I have a video that's coming out tonight that would have went out Friday that's on YouTube Video SEO and about how to use your descriptions effectively. So that's coming out. But you can find all of my content on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/RobertoBlake2. Mondays, graphic design videos. Tuesdays is tech and unboxing. Wednesdays is photography and video and camera gear. Thursdays is tutorials and also personal branding stuff and any announcements that I have. Friday is YouTube and video marketing. And Saturday is social media and small business. And Sundays is vlogs and inspiration so that you can hit up Motivation Monday morning. And Turk, you looks like you froze for me. Hang on. Up, you're refreshing. Looks like Turk froze and he's going to be refreshing. So I just want to encourage you guys to sign up for the newsletter. You can find it at robertoblake.com/newsletter. And you'll be signed up for the Create Awesome Community newsletter. There, you'll also get my free ebook, The 7 Points of Personal Branding. This is what I use to actually develop my personal brand, and it is a mini guide. At some point, I will be releasing a full ebook for that, but that will come later. There is another book that I'm working on right now that will come before that. And so, again, I encourage you to take advantage of the free download of this mini guide. It's a PDF ebook, 7 Points of Personal Branding. It's the system that I use to figure out how to communicate my message, tell my story, be authentic, and it's something that I continue to use to this day. So I want to encourage you to take a look at that, and you can get that through the newsletter. Also, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Turk and see if he comes back. I wonder how to apply that to a clothing company. Well, there's a lot of ways you can apply that to a clothing company, indie artist. First of all, the whole thing I talk about in the personal branding can be applied to a business. And part of it is the simple fact of people have to know who you are, but they also need to know why they should care about who you are. You have a t-shirt company. Let's just say that your t-shirt company is DKNY. Cool. What does DKNY stand for? I have no idea. Not interested. Don't care. You have to have something more than that. You have to, okay. So you have to let them know who this is for and why this is for. FUBU was successful because they had a very strong brand message. They had a very strong brand story. They were, okay, for us, by us. You knew what that was about. You knew who the niche market was. You knew who the target audience was. People did not have to guess whether or not they should be buying this product. So that was interesting. And they gave a motivator in the name of the product and the brand for someone to buy it from, from that perspective. So that's why I think Damon John was very smart about it, and why he's considered one of the foremost brand builders of this era, is because the rags to riches story of FUBU makes total sense in a 2016, 2015 world that it might not have back in the 90s when people were challenging it, and it worked. So even though the t-shirt business is very saturated, look, every market's saturated. I hate the phrase, oh, the market's saturated. I despise that phrase because, and it's no offense to you, I just feel like, oh, a market saturated is like an excuse, because there are markets that if I had $1 billion, I would disrupt tomorrow, because I would just go super rogue and I would just make the most interesting, most inventive brand. Because you know how I make a successful t-shirt company, indie HP artist, is that I literally make an independent film about starting a t-shirt company. And I market that film for free on the internet. And it's not a documentary. You literally make something like the Step Up movies or something like that, but for a t-shirt company. You make something super interesting, super cool, super edgy and rogue, and it fits the narrative of the brand. And then they find out that the brand is something they can buy in real life, and that you made a fictional story around it, and it's an independent film. That's your biggest marketing piece, because now this film is going to get all these views, and you can go make the behind the scenes of stuff, and then you can show them the making of these t-shirts, and you can make stories behind it. So if you wanted to start a brand and build a brand around a t-shirt company, again, you can steal this idea if you want to execute on it. But if I was going to do that, and I was going to really try to build a t-shirt company, if I was going to build a t-shirt, look, I'll probably do this for the Always Be Creating and the Create Awesome t-shirts. And that I will probably just go ahead and, like, you can steal this idea for your brand, but I'm going to do it about saturation. I don't care about competition. I will literally, when I decide that I really want to sell these t-shirts, which if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. If I really want to sell these t-shirts, I'll just make a movie that sells these t-shirts. And that's because there's no other clothing company that has a movie about them. And I will take it to the internet, and in every one of the YouTube videos of the making of, the behind the scenes, and the video, the whole thing, plus the parts of, and all of that, there will be links to go buy the shirts. And that's how I would do it. Yep. And people do buy you before they buy their product. So that's how I would do it. I would make a film about a t-shirt, startup, and it would be a fiction. It wouldn't be the documentary of it. Wouldn't be our story. It would just be a story, and would just feature the clothing line in it. Or I would make a video that's not about a t-shirt company. I'd make a video that's about a movie that's about breakdancing, and then just have all the crews wear the t-shirts or something like that. And so I would just do that. I would just make a movie and sell the shirts, and that's what I would do. So yeah, that. For the other 8 people who are live, if you have a question or there's something in terms of the branding of your business or your personal brand that you want to ask, feel free to do that. I'm waiting on our host, Solutions Turk, to come back. I'm wondering if he had some, connectivity problems or issues. I kind of don't want to end the show without him having the opportunity to come back in. So I'm trying to do that. But if anyone has a question, I'm definitely happy to answer them. I've got about maybe 5 more minutes, and then I'm hopping on a mastermind call. So that's what I'm going to do. Also, if you want to buy shirts, you can get them from, if you want the Create Awesome or the Always Be Creating shirts, or my new Books Are Awesome shirt, you can go to robertoblake.com/shirts. That will redirect you to my Spreadshirt store, and that will help you get one of these t-shirts, or one of the other t-shirts that I've created if that's something you're interested in for whatever reason, or you just want to support the content that I'm creating. So Samda says, ask, building a personal brand, tips and suggestions. Okay, so a couple of things. You need to definitely sign up for the Create Awesome Community newsletter, and you will get my free ebook, The 7 Points of Personal Branding. And I say that because that's going to really drive it home for you in an actionable way. My initial tips and advice are you need to know your brand story. Anyone in this room right now can tell me who Spider-Man is, who Superman is. You can tell me who they are, where they came from, what they stand for. But if you can't do that for yourself in the 15 seconds it takes for an Instagram video, then it's going to be very hard to convince anybody of what you are about and who you are and give them your quote-unquote elevator pitch. In a way, if you can't do it in 15 seconds in the world that we live in, tell them what you're about, what value you create for them and who you are and why they should care, you're done. So know your story, know it cold, know it in 15 seconds, know it in 30 seconds, know it in 60 seconds, know it in 2 minutes. Know it for every native platform, know it for real life and dealing with a human being, know how to adjust it to the context of the different people in your potential audience or your different customer profiles or avatars. Know what that is. Understand how you create and communicate value to other people. Understand what platforms make the most sense for you to spread the message of your brand and which platforms lend themselves to your style and your authenticity. If you're a very good public speaker and communications person like me, video is very good for you. Video is your friend. Things like Blab, things like Periscope, things like YouTube can be very successful for you. If you're very shy about those things, an audio format might be better for you, or writing content for a blog might be better for you. So those things can help you with your true narrative and who you really are and what's comfortable for you and what your strengths are. So play to your strengths. Don't worry too much about your weaknesses. Outsource those. Don't ignore them. Be aware of them and outsource them to people who are stronger in them. There's a saying that goes back to a good king never does what someone else can do better faster. It's the same thing of business. So I would say that. So those are some of my upfront tips on personal branding. So I'm going to give it like 1 or 2 more minutes here. If anyone else has a last minute question, then I'm going to close out the show on Turk's behalf so I can hop into this mastermind call. Is my camera slightly below my eye level? No, I just have trouble seeing, and it may be, I'm not 100% sure. It may be that I have trouble seeing, but then I'm also trying to keep track of the comments, so I don't know. I'm sorry if that throws people off. When I'm doing YouTube stuff, I'm much better at it and about it, but most of the time that's not live, and even when it is, that can be a different situation, because when I'm doing that stuff, a lot of times I'll shut off live comments so I'm not distracted, so that I'm just at the camera. So that's what it is. Oh, how is it framed? I specifically frame it to where I think it is actually at my eye level, for one thing. I'm using the Logitech C920, which is on the gear list, which is on my blog, robertoblake.com/blog. And then I specifically set it up so that my custom wood carved Create Awesome hashtag sign that I got from Sue B. Zimmerman would be in the frame, as well as my iMac and some stuff I keep on my desk, my Always Be Creating mug. And occasionally I'll adjust or tilt it if I feel like I want to really get my shirts in the, in the shot. So I might do that. And so that's another, branding thing. And I can always elevate the height of the seat, so that can help. And so that's what I do. So yeah, with that, I'm going to close out the show. Thank you so much for tuning in with myself and Solutions Turk for this episode. I don't know what happened with the technical difficulties. I'm going to catch up with him later. Maybe we'll do another interview. But it was great. Thank you, Turk, if you're watching the replay, for having me on the show. I'm sorry to kind of hijack it here at the end. I don't know what happened with your computer going down. But again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope your questions got answered. I hope you understand a little bit better how to develop your brands and how to execute on your communication strategy. Always feel free to reach out to me here on Blab and Twitter. And Waiting for my SEO video for tonight. Yep, that's going to go out momentarily. Probably after I get off of this blab, it's going to go down. Probably going to do the last bit of tweaks to that while I'm on this conference call. So that's it for me. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. And just remember, create something awesome today.